My name is Derek Sullivan. I'm 26 now, working as a mechanical engineer in Atlanta, but back in 2019 I was just a college kid home on spring break. My dad, James Sullivan, had been running fishing charters out of Fort Lauderdale for 23 years. Before that, he did 8 years in the Coast Guard. The man knew boats, and he knew the ocean better than anyone I'd ever met. We were 3 hours into what should have been a routine fishing trip, maybe 40 miles off the Florida coast. Just the two of us on his boat, a 32-foot Grady White named Karen's Dream, after my mom. We'd done this exact route 100 times. It was a Tuesday in March, early afternoon, clear skies, barely any wind, perfect conditions. The radio crackled to life around 1:15 p.m. 25.421 north, 80.073 west. Dad's hand froze on the throttle. Those were our coordinates, exact. We hadn't called them in, hadn't transmitted anything. He grabbed the radio. Say again? Who is this? Static. Then 25.421 north, 80.073 west. Same voice, calm, neutral, like a GPS reading. Male, I think, though it had this weird flat quality to it. No accent, no emotion.
"This is Karen's Dream," Dad said, his voice tight. "Identify yourself." Nothing but static. Dad looked at me, and I could see it in his face, that look he'd get when something wasn't right. This was a man who'd navigated through 2 hurricanes in his Coast Guard days. He didn't spook easy. "Check the GPS," he said. I looked down at the screen. Our position was solid. No glitches, no errors. The numbers matched exactly what the voice had said. "Could be someone pranking," I said, but I didn't believe it. How would they know our exact position? Dad picked up the radio again. "Any vessel, this is Karen's Dream on Channel 16. Anyone copy?" Clear static. No response. Then, 25.389 north, 80.061 west. Those were our new coordinates. We'd moved maybe half a mile north. The voice was tracking us in real time. Dad's jaw clenched. He switched channels, tried the Coast Guard frequency. Coast Guard, this is Karen's Dream, over." Static. He tried again. Nothing. "We're going back," he said, already turning the wheel. That's when the engine died. Just cut out completely. No sputtering, no warning. 1 second we were doing 20 knots. The next we were drifting in silence. Dad immediately went below to check it out. I stayed at the helm, watching the radio like it might bite me. The voice came back. 25.389 north, 80.061 west. "Dad!" I shouted down. He came up fast, wiping his hands. "Fuel's fine. Everything's fine. It just stopped." We sat there for maybe 10 minutes while Dad tried to restart it. The ocean was dead calm. I mean, unnaturally calm. No chop, no current, nothing. Like we were sitting in a bathtub. And it was quiet. I'd been on this boat my whole life, and there's always sound. Waves, wind, seabirds. But right then, nothing. The radio. 25.389 north, 80.061 west. We weren't moving. Same coordinates. But now the voice was repeating them every few minutes. Dad got on the sat phone, the emergency one he kept for when regular radio failed. He tried calling the Coast Guard direct. The call wouldn't go through. Just a weird tone, like the number didn't exist. "This is fucked," he muttered, and I'd never heard him sound like that. Scared. He tried the engine again. Nothing. 25.389 north, 80.061 west. "Turn it off," I said. "What?" "The radio. Turn it off." Dad stared at me, then reached over and killed the power to the radio. The silence that followed was worse. At least the voice had been something. Now there was just nothing. No engine, no radio, no sound at all except our breathing. We drifted for about an hour. Dad kept trying the engine every 10 minutes. I watched the GPS, watched our positions slowly shift with whatever current was there, even though the water looked absolutely still. The sun was bright overhead, had to be pushing 90 degrees, but I felt cold. Around 2:45, Dad was below deck again, checking the engine for the fourth time when I saw it. Another boat. Maybe 200 yards off our port side. Small fishing boat, similar size to ours, white hull. I couldn't see anyone on deck. "Dad," I called down, "there's a boat." He came up fast, shielding his eyes against the sun. We both watched it. The boat wasn't moving either, just sitting there in the water. No wake, no drift, just there. Dad grabbed the air horn and gave 3 long blasts, universal signal for distress. No response from the other boat. No movement. He tried again. Nothing. "I'm going to try the radio," he said, switching it back on. Immediate static. Then 25.377 north, 80.058 west. New coordinates. We drifted south and east. Dad changed channels, tried hailing the other vessel. "Unidentified vessel, this is Karen's Dream. Do you copy?" Static. The voice again on our channel. 25.377 north, 80.058 west. I looked back at the other boat. Something was off about it. It took me a second to realize what. There was no name on the hull. Every boat has to have a name displayed. This one was completely blank. "Dad, look at..." The engine started. Just roared to life on its own, full throttle, like someone had turned the key, except Dad was standing right next to me. His hand wasn't anywhere near the ignition. The boat lurched forward, throwing me against the console. Dad grabbed the wheel, tried to throttle down, but nothing responded. We were doing 30 knots, straight toward the other vessel.
"Kill it," I shouted. "I'm trying." Dad was turning the key, hitting the kill switch. Nothing worked. We were accelerating. 100 yards from the other boat. 75. I could see it clearly now. Definitely a fishing boat. Maybe a 28-foot center console. Nobody on deck. No fishing gear. The hull was pristine, like it had just been cleaned. 50 yards. "Hold on," Dad yelled. 25 yards. Then the engine died again. We coasted to a stop, maybe 30 feet from the other boat, close enough that I could have thrown a can and hit it. We sat there, rocking gently in our own wake. The other boat didn't move, didn't rock. It was like it was painted on the water. Dad and I didn't say anything for a long moment. We just stared. Then I noticed the rope. There was a mooring line hanging off the stern of the other boat, trailing into the water. It was taut, like it was tied to something below the surface, but we were in maybe 300 feet of water out here. Nothing to tie to. "Dad," I whispered. "What's that rope?" "The radio." 25.377 north, 80.058 west. The voice was coming from the other boat. I could see the radio mast, could see a small speaker mounted on the console. The voice was broadcasting from there, not to us, from there. Dad's face went white. He hit the ignition. The engine turned over immediately, smooth as silk, like it had never stopped. He slammed it into reverse, started backing away from that boat as fast as he could. The voice kept broadcasting our coordinates as we moved, every 30 seconds, updating our position, perfectly accurate. We could still hear it on our radio even as we got farther away. Dad didn't stop reversing until we were a quarter mile off. Then he spun us around and opened up the throttle, heading straight back to shore. The engine ran perfect, no issues. I kept watching behind us. The other boat got smaller and smaller until it disappeared. But I swear, right before it vanished from sight, I saw someone standing on the deck, just standing there, watching us go. We made it back to the marina around 4:30. Dad didn't say a word the entire trip, just kept his hand on the throttle and his eyes forward. When we tied up, he went straight to the harbor master's office and reported the other vessel, gave the coordinates, description, everything. The harbor master checked with the Coast Guard. They sent a helicopter out to the location within an hour. There was no boat. Nothing on radar, nothing visual.
empty ocean. Dad sold Karen's dream 3 weeks later, took a loss on it, didn't care. He told buyers the engine was unreliable, never mentioned what really happened. I asked him once, about a month after, if he thought we imagined it. He looked at me for a long time before answering. "That voice knew where we were," he said quietly, to the exact decimal point, before we did. He never went back out on the water, not once. And sometimes, late at night, I still wonder about that rope, what it was tied to, and who was standing on that deck watching us leave. My name is Amanda Chen. I'm 31, and I've been working on charter boats since I was 23. Started as a deckhand, worked my way up to first mate on some pretty nice vessels. I've done the Caribbean run dozens of times. It's good money, easy work if you don't mind being away from land. But after what happened in the summer of 2021, I haven't set foot on a boat since. There were 7 of us when we left Nassau. There were 8 of us when we arrived in Miami. This was a standard charter trip on a 50-foot catamaran. My job was basically bartender/deckhand, keep the guests happy, help with the sailing, clean up after everyone. The captain was a guy named Rick Delgado, 52 years old, been running the Bahamas to Florida route for 15 years. Solid guy, knew his stuff. The guests were a family from Connecticut. Mom, dad, 3 kids, all teenagers, all of them glued to their phones. The Hendersons, nice enough people, typical wealthy tourists wanting to say they'd crossed the Triangle, but with all the luxury amenities. We left Nassau around 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. Weather was perfect, forecast was clear, and Rick was planning to make Miami by Thursday morning. It's only about 180 miles, easy overnight trip. Everything was normal until around 2 p.m. We were maybe halfway across, out of sight of land in every direction, when the youngest kid, Sophie, 14 years old, came up to me at the bar. "That man keeps staring at me," she said.
I looked around. Her dad was up at the bow with his older brother, taking pictures. Her mom and sister were below in the cabin. Rick was at the helm. "What man?" I asked. She pointed toward the stern. "Him." There was nobody there, just empty deck and ocean. "Sophie, there's no one." "He was just there," she insisted, "like 2 seconds ago. He was standing right there and he was staring at me." I walked back to check. Nothing. No place to hide on a catamaran. It's all open space. "Maybe you saw a reflection," I suggested. "The sun on the water can play tricks." She gave me this look like I was an idiot. "I know what I saw." I told her to let me know if she saw him again, figuring it was just teenager drama or attention-seeking. Forgot about it. Around 5 p.m., Rick called me up to the helm. "You see that?" he asked, pointing at the radar screen. There was a small blip, maybe half a mile behind us. Looked like another vessel. "Huh," I said. "Didn't see anyone back there." "Me neither," Rick frowned. "Been there for about 20 minutes, matching our speed exactly." We both turned to look. The ocean was empty, nothing but blue water and sky. "Probably a glitch," Rick said, but he didn't sound convinced. The blip stayed on the radar for another hour, then disappeared. Dinner was at 7. The family ate together in the main cabin while Rick and I took turns at the helm. I made sandwiches, brought them up to Rick, took over steering while he ate. Normal routine. Sophie didn't come to dinner. Her mom came up around 7:30, looking annoyed. "Have you seen Sophie? She's not in her cabin." We searched the boat. It's not that big. You can check every space in 10 minutes. Sophie wasn't anywhere. Her mom started panicking. "She was just downstairs. I saw her 20 minutes ago." We searched again. Rick even checked the anchor locker, the engine room, stupid places no one would be. Nothing. Then Sophie walked out of the bathroom. Just walked out, completely calm. "Where were you?" her mom demanded, relief turning to anger. "We've been looking everywhere." "I was in the bathroom," Sophie said flatly. "I told you I didn't feel good." "We checked the bathroom." "Well, I was in there." Her mom stared at her, then looked at me. I didn't say anything. I had checked that bathroom. The door was open, light was off.
It was empty. "Go to your cabin," her mom said finally, "and stay there." Sophie left without arguing. Her mom followed her down, and I heard them talking in low voices, then a door closing. Rick pulled me aside. "You checked that head, right?" "Yeah, door was open. No one in there." That's what I thought. We didn't talk about it after that. What were we going to say? Night fell. The family went to bed around 10. Rick and I were doing 3-hour shifts. He'd take helm until 1 a.m., then me until 4 a.m., then him again until we docked. Standard procedure. I tried to sleep in the crew cabin but couldn't. Something felt wrong. Not scary wrong, just off. Like when you know you forgot something but can't remember what. Around midnight, I gave up and went up on deck. Rick was at the helm, drinking coffee from a thermos. He didn't seem surprised to see me. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "No." We stood there in silence for a while. The ocean at night is different. All that darkness around you, stars above, and the only sound is the water and the engines. Usually I find it peaceful. Not that night. "You ever have a trip that just feels wrong?" Rick asked quietly. "What do you mean?" He shook his head. "Nothing, forget it." But I knew what he meant. I felt it too. Around 12:30, I went below to grab a soda from the galley. The family's cabins were all dark, doors closed, quiet. Except I could hear someone talking. Soft, muffled, coming from the main cabin. I walked closer. It was Sophie's voice. She was talking to someone, having a full conversation. I could hear the rhythm of it, her speaking, then pausing, like she was listening to responses, then speaking again. I knocked softly on her door. "Sophie, you okay?" The talking stopped immediately. Long pause, then, "Yeah? Who are you talking to?" "No one. I'm on my phone." "You don't have service out here." Another pause. "I'm watching videos I downloaded." That made sense, I guess. I almost walked away. Almost. "Can you keep it down? People are sleeping." "Okay." I went back up on deck, told Rick about it. He just shrugged. "Teenagers," he said. I took over the helm at 1 a.m. Rick went below to sleep. The autopilot was handling most of it. I was basically just monitoring instruments and watching for traffic. Not that there was any. We hadn't seen another vessel since Nassau. The radar was clear. No blips, no ghosts. I made coffee around 2 a.m., did a quick walk around the deck to stay awake. Everything was secure. The family's cabins were dark and quiet. When I got back to the helm, someone was sitting in the captain's chair. I nearly dropped my coffee. It was a man, maybe 40, maybe older. Hard to tell in the dim light from the instruments. He was wearing khaki shorts and a white polo shirt, deck shoes. Looked like any other charter guest, except we didn't have any male guests that age. "Hey," I said, heart pounding, "who are you?" He turned to look at me. His face was normal, completely, utterly normal. Average features, short brown hair, no distinguishing marks, the kind of face you'd forget 5 minutes after meeting him. He smiled. "Beautiful night. You need to tell me who you are. Is it always this calm out here?" He was looking at the ocean, not at me. "I'm getting the captain." I started to move toward the stairs. "No need." He stood up, stretched like he'd been sitting for hours. "Just enjoying the view." He walked past me, headed toward the stern. I followed him, keeping distance. "Stop," I said. "Don't move." He stopped at the rail, looked out at the water. The moon was nearly full, reflecting off the gentle swells. "Do you ever wonder," he said conversationally, "what's down there?" "I'm getting Rick. Stay right there." I backed toward the stairs, watching him. He didn't move, just stood at the rail, hands in his pockets, looking at the ocean. I went down fast, practically ran to Rick's cabin, pounded on the door. "Rick! Rick, wake up!" He came out half asleep, confused. "What? What's wrong?" "There's someone on deck, a man. I don't know who he is." That woke him up fast. He grabbed a flashlight and we went up together. The deck was empty. We searched the entire boat, checked every cabin, very carefully, very quietly, didn't want to wake the family. Checked the engine room, storage, everywhere. 7 people, the family of 5, Rick and me, no one else. "What did he look like?" Rick asked when we were back at the helm.
I tried to describe him. Average height, average build, brown hair, white polo shirt, but even as I said it, the details were fuzzy. I couldn't quite picture his face anymore. "You're sure you saw him?" "I was standing 3 feet away. We talked." "What did he say?" I told him. Rick went quiet for a long time. "Get the family up," he said finally. "I want everyone on deck now." "It's 3 a.m. Now." I woke them up. The dad was pissed, the mom was scared, the kids were confused. We got them all up to the main deck. Rick did a head count. 7 people. "Why are we doing this?" the dad demanded. Rick ignored him, went below and personally checked every cabin again, every bathroom, every closet, every storage space. He came back up, looked at me, shook his head. We let the family go back to bed. They were furious, threatening to leave bad reviews, demanding explanations. Rick told them there'd been a security concern, apologized, got them settled. Then he and I stayed up together until sunrise. Didn't talk much, just kept watch. The sun came up around 6:30. Miami was visible on the horizon by 7. Sophie came up on deck around 7:30 while her parents were still sleeping. She stood next to me at the rail, looking at the city getting closer. "He's still here," she said quietly.
My skin went cold. What? The man. He's still on the boat. I can feel him. Sophie, he wanted to come with us, so he did. She looked at me and her eyes were completely calm. He's been here the whole time, even before we left Nassau. That's not... You saw him too. I know you did. I didn't know what to say. He's not mean or anything, she continued. He just wanted to leave. He'd been waiting there for a long time, years, I think. Sophie, there's no one I know. She smiled a little. That's what makes it worse. She went back downstairs. We docked in Miami around 10 a.m. The family got off fast, barely said goodbye. Sophie was the last one off the boat. She paused at the gangway and looked back. "He's staying with you," she said to me. "He likes the boat." Then she was gone. Rick and I cleaned the boat in silence, getting it ready for the next charter. As we worked, I kept feeling it, like someone was watching, like there was always someone just behind me, just out of sight. "You feel that?" I asked Rick. He didn't answer right away, just kept coiling rope, moving slowly, like he was trying not to disturb something. "Yeah," he said finally. "I feel it." I quit the next day. Told Rick I was going back to school, which was partially true. He didn't try to talk me out of it. I heard later he sold the boat. Last I checked, it's still running charters out of Miami. Different owner, different crew. I wonder sometimes if they've noticed, if they count the people on board and keep coming up one too many, if they see someone standing at the stern at night, watching the water, or if he's moved on by now, found another boat, another ride.
My name is Kyle Brennan. I'm 28 years old, and I used to be a dive instructor. Used to be. I haven't been in the water since January 2023, and I don't plan on going back. We found the plane at 112 feet. It shouldn't have been there. Our dive plan was for a reef dive, mapped coordinates, popular spot off the coast of Bimini. We'd been to that exact location a dozen times. There had never been any wreckage before. There were 4 of us on the trip, me and 3 friends. Marcus Webb, 32, a software engineer who'd been diving for 8 years, Jennifer Santos, 29, a nurse, probably the most experienced diver in our group with over 200 logged dives, and Tyler Chen, 26, a photographer who'd gotten into diving to shoot underwater content. We'd all been diving together for 3 years. We knew each other's abilities, trusted each other completely. We'd rented a small boat for the week. We're doing unguided dives, completely legal and safe. We knew what we were doing. The dive started normal. Water temp was 78 degrees, visibility was good at about 60 feet, mild current. We descended together, equalizing every few feet, hand signals all around. perfect conditions. Marcus spotted it first, pointed down into the east. At first, I thought it was just part of the reef, a weird rock formation. Then I saw the wing. It was a small plane, maybe a six-seater, sitting upright on the ocean floor like it had landed there. No debris field, no impact damage I could see from that distance, just there. None of us had read about a recent crash in the area. We'd have heard about it, small aviation community, especially in the Bahamas. This should have been news. We signaled to each other, okay to check it out? Everyone agreed. We descended. The plane was a Piper, I think. Hard to tell exactly with all the marine growth, but the basic shape was clear. The landing gear was down, both wings were intact, the tail was straight. But here's what got me. There was no registration number visible. Should have been on the side, on the tail. Covered in algae maybe, but you'd still see the outline. There was nothing. Tyler found the door, pilot's side. It was closed but not locked. He pulled the handle and it opened smoothly. Too smoothly for something that had been underwater for any length of time. I checked my dive computer. We'd been down 8 minutes at 112 feet. Still plenty of bottom time. Air was good. Tyler shined his light inside. The interior was intact. Seats still there, dashboard present, yoke in place. But everything was covered in this weird gray film, like dust but underwater. And it was moving slightly in the current, flowing like hair. No bodies. That was the first thing I noticed. No remains, no bones, no clothing, nothing. Jen pointed at the instrument panel. The engine gauges were all redlined. Fuel empty, oil pressure 0, temperature maxed. Like the pilot had flown until everything died. Marcus was checking the back seats. He gestured for me to look. There were personal items back there. A briefcase, waterlogged but closed. A jacket draped over one seat. A small duffel bag on the floor. Fresh.
I mean, they looked wrong for something that had been underwater for any length of time. The briefcase wasn't crusted with coral. The jacket wasn't disintegrated. They looked maybe a few weeks old, not months or years. Tyler checked his computer, tapped it, then showed me. His compass was spinning, just rotating slowly, continuously, not pointing north, not pointing anywhere. I checked mine. Same thing. We all checked. All 4 compasses, spinning. Jen made the signal. Go up, something's wrong. But Marcus was still looking in the back of the plane. He reached in, grabbed the duffel bag, pulled it out. It came easily. He unzipped it. Papers. Documents, still legible despite being underwater. He pulled one out carefully and held it up to his light. It was a flight plan. I could see the date, March 15, 1986. Tyler grabbed my arm, pointed at his pressure gauge, then up. Time to go. I nodded, but Marcus was still looking through the bag. I tapped his shoulder, made the ascend signal. He held up one finger. Wait. He pulled out something else. A wallet. Opened it. There was a driver's license inside, laminated, somehow still intact enough to read. Marcus went very still. Then he shoved everything back in the bag, zipped it, and pushed it back into the plane. His movements were jerky, almost panicked. He slammed the plane doors shut and made the signal. Up. Now. Fast. We ascended together, doing our safety stop at 15 feet, even though every part of me wanted to bolt to the surface. You don't skip safety stops. You get bent, you die. 3 minutes at 15 feet felt like an hour. I kept looking down, expecting to see, I don't know what, something coming up after us. We surfaced, got back on the boat, sat there breathing hard, nobody talking. Finally, Jen said, "What the fuck was that?" "Old plane," Tyler said. "Crash from the 80s. "Bullshit," Marcus said. "That plane was not down there yesterday." "How do you know?" "Because we dove this exact spot 3 days ago. There was no fucking plane." He was right. We'd been to this reef twice already this trip. There had been no plane. "Maybe we drifted," I said. "Current took us somewhere different." "GPS says we're in the exact same spot," Tyler said, checking his dive computer. "Same coordinates as Tuesday." We sat there. "What was in the wallet?" Jen asked Marcus.
He didn't answer for a long time, just stared at the water. "Marcus." "The license," he said quietly. "It had the pilot's name and his photo." So, I've seen that face before, in a documentary about the Triangle, about disappearances." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that pilot went missing in 1986, him and his plane. They never found either of them. It's a famous case." Tyler laughed, but it sounded wrong. "Okay, so we found famous wreckage. That's good, right? We should report it." "You don't get it," Marcus said. "According to that flight plan, he was flying from West Palm to Nassau, routine flight. He disappeared somewhere in this area. They searched for weeks, found nothing." "And now we found him," I said. "No," Marcus looked at me. "That's the thing. The briefcase, the jacket, that duffel bag. They weren't old. They were new. They were underwater. I've seen plenty of stuff that's been down for decades. I know what it looks like. That stuff was fresh. Couple weeks tops." Nobody said anything. "I want to dive again," Tyler said suddenly. "I want to see it in better light, take photos, document it properly." "No," Marcus said immediately. "Why not? This is incredible. We found—" "My compass was spinning. So was yours. So was everyone's. You know what that means? Equipment malfunction? All four of us at the same time? All different brands?" Marcus shook his head. "Something's wrong down there." "I'm diving again," Tyler said, already checking his air. "You guys can stay up if you want." "Tyler, don't," Jen said, but he was already gearing up, put his BCD back on, checked his pressure gauge, pulled his mask down. "I'll be quick. 20 minutes max. Just want some photos." He rolled backward into the water before any of us could stop him. We watched him descend, his bubbles rising for the first minute, then spreading out as he went deeper. Marcus started timing him on his watch. 5 minutes passed, 10, 15. At 25 minutes, Marcus stood up. He should have surfaced by now. Even if he used every bit of air, he should be up. We waited. 30 minutes. "Something's wrong," Jen said.
Marcus was already gearing back up. "I'm going down." "We'll both go," I said. Jen stayed on the boat. Marcus and I descended fast. Too fast. Not following proper procedure, but we didn't care. We hit the bottom at 112 feet. The plane was gone. Not destroyed, not buried, just gone. Empty ocean floor, undisturbed sand, same reef we'd been to 3 days ago. No plane, no wreckage, no Tyler. We called it in. Coast Guard came, searched the area for 3 days, sent divers down, used sonar, the whole protocol for a missing diver. They found nothing. No body, no equipment, no plane. The official report listed it as a diving accident, probable drowning, body not recovered. They theorized he had a medical event at depth or equipment failure. But here's what they didn't include in the report. On the second day of searching, the Coast Guard divers said their compasses went haywire at that specific location, all of them spinning uselessly. And one of them, a diver with 20 years of experience, refused to go back down after his second dive. Wouldn't say why, just said he was done and they'd have to fire him if they wanted him in that water again. I asked him about it later, bought him a drink, pressed him gently. "You saw something," I said. "No," he looked at his beer. "That's the problem. I didn't see anything, but the whole time I was down there, I felt like the water was wrong, like it wasn't water, like it was something else, and I just couldn't tell what." "That doesn't make sense." "I know," he finished his drink. "That's what I told myself. Nitrogen narcosis, maybe. But I've been narcsed before. This wasn't that. This was different, like the ocean wasn't empty, like it was full of something I couldn't see, and whatever it was watching me, waiting to see if I'd notice." I never went back to that spot. Neither did Marcus or Jen. We finished our week in Bimini doing shallow dives off the tourist beaches, and we haven't talked about what happened since. But I think about it, about that plane sitting there, pristine and impossible, about the date on those papers, about Tyler disappearing into water that should have been empty. And I think about what Marcus saw in that wallet,
what made him go so still, so scared. I asked him once, right before we left Bimini, what exactly he'd seen. He took a long time answering. "The expiration date," he finally said, "on the license." "What about it?" "It was renewed 3 months ago." He wouldn't say anything else, wouldn't explain what that meant. But I've thought about it every day since. Thought about a pilot who disappeared in 1986, whose plane we found in 2023, whose license was somehow renewed 3 months before we dove. Thought about where he might be renewing a license, and what he might be flying.